It's all about experience, experience, experience. It's time for experience. It's about experience, experience. Prepare yourself for experience. Lead devotees to victory with authentic connectivity. Build your brand on the wings of an eagle. Watch your fandom soar with mind-blowing experience. You're making your customers delirious. If they try to tune you out, you'll innovate like never before. Experience, experience, experience.
Before we came here, I went to Swig and I bought every single drink on the menu.
Like a baller.
Now, you might be asking yourself, as I would be, man, this doesn't look like every drink because there's a lot of drinks. The problem is, like, we drank a few of them on the way over, so it's not every drink that arrived here, but we did buy every drink. Is it the Unlucky Ducky?
Unlucky Duck.
Unlucky Duck.
Yeah.
It's Sprite based.
Yeah.
I think Sprite is the best soda. It's my favorite. So
It's a good mixer.
it is a good mixer.
Yeah.
It is. There's a refreshing edge to all the Sprite ones. I cycle through all the Sprite ones. So if at any point you get thirsty in this conversation, feel free to grab yourself a Swig drink.
Okay. Well,
yeah. Which
I'm
one?
gonna take Raspberry Dream right
Raspberry Dream. Here we go.
now. You bought.
Yeah.
You bought.
we
my
also
favorite.
we got the massive straws. There's options to not get them, but when given the option, you go for the
big or
massive
you
straw.
Always get the
Yeah,
massive
Yeah.
straw.
Go
Why
big or
not?
go home. This is what
Especially
we
in
do.
the smaller cup, it just looks
Yeah.
ridiculous.
We're going kid size cup, extra
Kids.
large straw. That's
Right.
it.
Oh, you do have a Beach Babe. All right, I'm going to go for the Beach Babe.
Grab one.
Yep, right here.
Get it.
Perfect.
And I'm going to be sipping on the watermelon sugar.
Oh,
I'm not even
I've
sure
never
what's in it.
had that one.
I'm about to
Is
let
it
you know.
real? Did they just make it up?
Now, when you go in there and you say, hey, I'm sorry to ruin your day, but I'm about to order every drink on your menu, there's probably a little bit of license to be like, hey, they're not actually going to check. Did we get all 27 or whatever number it is correct? There might have been
This
some.
is right.
This
They
is
got
right.
it.
Well, that one's right.
Nailed
that's
it.
good.
Hopefully this one is too. All right, Josh, JP, excited to just get the chance to have a fun conversation. You two are amazing. We've had fun conversations over the last 6 months at different times. We got to hang out in New Orleans together,
Yep.
which
fun
is
time.
so much fun through Coca-Cola. Would love just like as we think about like Savory Fund, like everybody has an origin story. You each have an origin story. Like, what was the origin story for each of you, like coming to Savory Fund, and then also like what is the Savory Fund origin story?
Okay, so I'll take a stab at this.
Please.
I actually I did insurance for Andrew early on. Andrew Smith, our managing partner, and he pulled me in, and I was essentially his first employee, and we were in his basement for 2 years.
So you were employee number one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I actually worked at his tech company, and then he started a restaurant on the side just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And they said it needs operations, it needs capital structure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go do restaurants. And I was like, I'll follow you anywhere. After 3 years of working for him in tech, I was like, yes. But it's so interesting to come from a basement. His garage was filled with just all of our stuff to where we are today. And having to do almost everything to get to this point is so rewarding because you know what others are going through. I remember one time we were 7 stores in and we were trying to make this opening happen. It was late at night. I was on my hands and knees scrubbing the walk-in box. And
This is like every good origin story.
well, and at that moment, it was, 2008, 2009. It was rough for a lot of people. And I just remember being so thankful, praying like, I have a job that I love, that I can make a difference in. And I was so thankful at that moment. And I always think back to that time, being on my knees, hands and knees, scrubbing, being worn out. And I think back like, that's what's really made what Savory is today. Going through that, getting to this point, understanding what it's like for every employee today, what they're dealing with, trying to get to the next level.
The three of us were just talking to David Salyers, and he talked about like if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's fun to hear even in like the dirty, mundane work of scrubbing floors, like there was an appreciation for like, hey, like I love this mission that I'm on.
Yeah.
Also, you start talking about working in the basement. I'm like, are we next to like Silicon Valley, next to Steve Jobs' garage? Like,
Yeah.
all
Right.
good tech startups
They
have
all
that.
start in a
They all-
garage
it has to.
in the basement.
Like, I don't care if you get $1 million to fund a startup, like find a garage to start out of. I think that's the message of the story.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
so good. All right,
That's how you go.
JP.
Yeah, so my background was construction. I've been living in Alaska. I moved down. My cousin lived here. He did landscaping. And one of our customers that we did a lot of work with was Andrew and Shauna Smith. And they're always just the most genuine person. I'm just the guy that's cutting their grass. And they're like, JP, we're so happy to see you. This is amazing. Thank you for coming over. Really like you being here. And that always resonated with me. And living in Utah, you don't landscape in the winter. And my cousin knew Andrew and Shauna really well. And so Andrew said, hey, why don't we steal JP for the winter? And you can have him back in the spring. Obviously, I did not leave in the spring. But with my construction background, Josh was doing a lot during that time. And so I came on, we're probably store number 12 about that time. We're staging the first Neaters in Arizona. And I'm watching the team, and they're hanging the menu boards. And it's Andrew's up there, and he's putting in the first screw, and he's hanging the one side. And then they're like up a little bit, over a little bit. In my background in construction, we were very detailed and structure oriented. We documented everything. Everything had a plan and worked. So I'm watching all of this happen. And then when they're done, I just go up there. I take pictures of it all. I measure where everything is. And when we go to stage the next one, like, all right, it's time to hang the menu boards. I'm like, I got this. So go up there, laid everything out, went back to my measurements, pictures, put it all together. And I just remember Andrew looking up going, man, I feel so fulfilled right now. I don't have to hang these menu boards anymore. And so really that was a birthplace for me within Savory. I just felt it was a special organization. And I just knew that some of my background and what I did would be useful. And it's just been home ever since.
JP and I have been working together for 13 years.
It's incredible.
So,
13
I
years.
mean, we've had a lot of fun. We've been at 1 million store openings and done operations together, but it was really nice working alongside with Andrew. He was the hardest worker he's still the hardest worker that I've ever met. And so, you know, that in me created this fire to be like that. And JP was right there alongside going, okay, we can do this. Let's next level. And he always has the best ideas, so I just follow on those.
I just love the idea of what Savory Fund is. When you think about, I mean, there's just such a people-first, people-centric, like, core conviction that exists from everybody that I've had the chance to meet. And there's the idea, I love, like, and I'm going to butcher it, y'all can correct me, the idea of, like, it's like kind of we are operators serving operators. Like, we're not this on high power coming in, like, hey, we are the people who have also rolled up our sleeves. When you think about Savory Fund, just like, I've tried to explain it to a bunch of people, and I've just done a poor job of explaining it. Like, what's the 3-minute description of Savory Fund and just the value that you create?
Savory Fund is brand-led, Savory supported. And we partner with founders, and we believe that the founders unlock a story that we could never tell at Savory. So you take, founders who come from Hawaii, and they tell their story in the best way possible, and the surfboards that they put up on their walls have touched Hawaiian waters. That is so different than someone who loves insurance. And, I love insurance. That's different. And I've never been to Hawaii. So how do I tell their story? I can't. But if we allow them to have the tools, the contracts, the process, the scale to tell their story, that's the ultimate goal for Savory. Taking founders, partnering with them, building teams underneath them, and then scaling them to the next level. And you take someone like John Conine, for instance. He was with Mobez from the beginning. He's a GM, and now he's chief operating officer. And to see that growth from 6 stores when we partnered with them to 60 plus stores, it's just an incredible journey to be able to be a part of that. And they're still winning as the founders, telling that origin story and being the front lines of what's happening. And hopefully I'm never the front line of that, right? That's the whole goal.
Right.
It's uplifting them and empowering them.
Yeah. And I love how Shauna says it. She says we're an extension of our founders' dreams. And I love that perspective because that gives you...
extension of the founders' dreams.
Right, yeah. It gives you passion for what you're doing. And there's no restaurant operator that opens a restaurant so that they can deal with HR or payroll or the RTU going down on Friday night at 7 o'clock. That's not why they opened a restaurant. They opened a restaurant because they're passionate about food. They're passionate about their relationships with their customers. They're passionate about their relationship with their employees. And so that's the unique part of Savory is, to Josh's point, we don't know that Hawaiian culture. We don't know that mixology and the passion that comes behind why you want to open a Swig. So we can take and remove those hats from the founders and let them focus on why they opened a restaurant, and then we can work in the background. And as these brands continue to grow, then we'll start backfilling those positions. We'll hire a CEO, we'll hire a recruiter, we'll hire an HR specialist. And that allows them to protect the soul of the brand so that as they grow, they stay true to who they are. And I think that's a big differentiator for Savory is we want that. We want them to stay true to who they are as they grow and not lose themselves in the success that follows.
We've had a lot of conversation, and it's clear that there's just a heart for hospitality. And in a lot of our conversations, it's mostly been about how are we equipping, our frontline teams to provide hospitality or a sense of welcome and care to guests who come into a restaurant. But there's also it feels like there's this belief in like a heart of hospitality for the founders we get to serve from Savory Fund. How do you think about like the dynamic of like we exist to serve these founders and these teams who then exist to serve these guests? Like how does that flow in a Savory Fund way?
It's interesting. Shauna, our CEO today, says food is love. And I think that really resonates with what they're trying to accomplish. For us, we have to be thinking about systems and process that allow our employees to understand what they need to be doing. And I've always said, go hire yourself in the brand. And if you can get through sourcing, onboarding, compliance, and scheduling, that's the basics of getting people to the next level. But then we add in layers of training and just a culture of why we're doing what we're doing. We do something that's pretty interesting with surveys. We understand what our employees are asking for. And instead of being punitive, we go back in and say, maybe you're missing some of the ideas that we have or the training to get you to the next level. And so we're looking at how do we empower employees versus get them in and then get them out because they're not working. Every single person that's working for us, they're trying to accomplish something. We just need to unlock what that is that they're trying to accomplish and make them a part of our mission of growing brands, building teams, building people along the way.
There's this idea, there's almost like a paradox between JP, I think he used the phrase like the soul of a brand. And then there's the systems that need to exist to scale a brand.
Right.
And I think you see a lot of brands go wayward when they sacrifice soul for systems.
Right.
But you're never going to reach scale if you don't have the systems. And so how do you think about like, hey, we want to scale, we want to provide, a playbook and a system by which these founders can reach their wildest dreams of growth while maintaining the integrity of like the soul, which almost feels like anti-scale in some ways.
Yeah.
There's a tension there to navigate.
For sure, absolutely. And when I think about that, the founders of these brands, they love their brands. They've bled, they've sweated to grow these brands. And I think what makes a good partnership is we feel the same thing, the same way about Savory. Like we love Savory. We love the work that we do. We love the people that we get to work with. We love being able to work with these founders. And I think it's that mutual love of what we do that softens the edges around what you would consider some rigidity within that. And then we're very intentional about the strategic partners that we work with. We spend a lot of time with them making sure that they understand the values that Savory has, the purpose that these brands have. And it's almost like using hospitality that you would want to use for the guest. We take that to our vendor partners as well, and we work with them in such a way that they then want to be stewards of the brand as well. And so they're looking out in the way that they approach and work within the brand. They want to protect the integrity of the brand as well. So when you have that level of care and stewardship coming from the founder, from Savory, from our strategic partnerships, then I think it makes it to where it can scale in a way that you can't lose that soul of the brand. It's the back thought of everything that we do.
I like your question though. Imagine being able to see 11 brands, and that's what is in Savory right now. And when we acquire brands, we actually allow them to use their systems for the first 6 months or a year. And so we're getting a glimpse into maybe leading edge or bleeding edge technology that they're using, and we're A/B testing that against other other systems within all of our stores.
Yes.
So on quick serve over here, on table service on there, does it work? Does this system work? Does this process work? And so for us, then that unlocks places that we can put our most focus on the employees. And if we think about our employees in that customer interaction and then build from there, and what happens here at Savory is we do maybe the harder work, but it's easy for the employees and the customer experience. That's the unlock.
How do y'all think about innovation?
Well, innovation is, for us, it's always been what is going to empower growth and scale. So growth of store count, scale as well, building sales, building profitable stores. And we just look at if it's internal tech and we're building it with our DevOps team, if it's third party, it really doesn't matter to us what that is. It's just getting us to the next level so that we can just do what we really want to be doing. And that's having a line out the door, quick speed of service. That's important to us. So no matter what the tech is, it just needs to empower the purpose. And JP always talks about purpose, but the purpose is the founders have that vision, and then we support that vision through our tech and through our decisions on that side of things.
Yeah, and a couple of our values are competency and humility. And I think when you marry those two together, then you realize I don't know everything in the space. So we're constantly on the lookout for what else is out there. Is there a better way to do this? Is there a different way to do this? And having that open-minded mentality of looking for ways to go, have we been doing it wrong, or could we be doing it better? Then that allows us to be able to go out and look for what the next best thing might be. And we do that by being able to visit with our peers in the industry through some of our strategic partnerships that open opportunities to help us meet other people who are maybe doing things a little differently and have different best practices. So when you couple those things together, then that allows innovation to flow a little bit more freely.
This is going to be rant. There are bubbles in here. What are these? I took a sip. I'm glad I had this massive straw. Like these bubbles are popping. What are they called?
Yeah.
Bobas.
Bobas?
Popping
What are-
pearls,
what
yeah.
are-
Yeah, like popping pearls.
It's like clouds popping in my mouth.
Yeah.
It's delicious. It's
Right.
Well,
a new sensory
buy
experience
one
I've
of
not had yet.
everything, You're gonna
Watermelon
get that
sugar.
experience.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
You get that little blast of watermelon.
Yeah,
as
it's
you
fun.
go. Yeah,
you finish drinking it, and then all of a sudden you get this extra surprise at the end.
exactly.
Well, if you're talking about tech leading edge, that's
I mean,
soda
this is-
leading
this
edge
is-
right there.
Innovation case
innovation.
study 101. Here we go.
Exactly.
I don't
I'm not
think
going to tell you
I got
about it.
any in mind.
I'm
so.
just going to show you innovation, and I'm not going to talk about it. So 11 brands in the portfolio now. It's an incredible perch you sit on to get to see, and we're talking about there's a Hawaiian concept, there's a barbecue concept, there's a beverage concept, there's I've not been there yet. What's the like acai bowl concept you'll have?
South Block.
I follow South
Yeah.
Block on Instagram, and I'm so mad I live in Atlanta. We need to get
yeah.
that to Atlanta. Not tried it yet, but I'm a big fan already.
All
I
we
tell
want
that
to
team all
do-
the time, I don't want to follow your social media anymore
I mean-
because I just am mad that I don't get to have it every day.
Like there's a shoe that drops here, but it's like, man, I can be healthy and have something that looks amazingly delicious. Like
Yeah,
that's the dream right
they're
there.
phenomenal.
So there's a wide range of brands and concepts from full service to quick service. Incredible insight into different consumers, different audience. Like when you think about just like what you're seeing, we're early 2025 from like meeting consumers desires, the evolution of where consumers are at. And like what's the current read on from Savory Fund's perspective of like, here's where we're trying to invest in the consumer guest experience because we're seeing like these things are mattering more and more to the guests we serve.
Yeah.
What's interesting for us is we get in early. So typically when we start working with a brand, they have a line out the door. Their ratings are extreme on social, and then we just get to play with that. There's this element of it's hip and cool and new, and we just get to play with that. I mean, we're talking about it here, but it doesn't matter if it's Detroit style pizza or Swig or it's Pincho down in Florida. We just are kind of on that leading edge, and that helps us get to that next level. And I think that's the fun part for us. We get to see something that maybe someone's not doing currently today, or it's working really well in the DMV area and DC, right? This is working. They haven't seen it yet in the Midwest. Well, let's take it there and see how it goes.
I love the playful. Like I think too many people try to be perfect instead of like having play. Like a lot of the best, it's like a spirit of humility and play that you get to, like the authentically connecting moments with a guest who comes in. When you think about like connecting with guests in stores, there's, I'm sure, like brand specific ways to do it, but there are maybe some like principles that you believe in, of like whether it's hospitality principles or customer experience principles. Like what's the unique point of view on like the customer experience that's maybe higher level across brands as opposed to brand specific?
Yeah, I think it starts with the vibe of the restaurant. I think sometimes you can walk into a place and you've never been there before, and the moment you walk in, you know there's something special about that. And that's one of the questions that I like to ask the founders when we're at these new restaurant openings. I don't never ask them how it looks. I ask them how it feels. Does it feel like a Via 313? Does it feel like a Houston's Hot Chicken? Does it feel like a Swig? Because it needs to have that feel. Because you notice that the moment you walk into a place, you're like, okay, this has a dope vibe. I really like that. And then I like the way Josh has always said this. You find the happiest, bubbliest, most outgoing person and you put them on the cash register. Because they're the first touch point within the restaurant. And they need to make the customer smile. They need to be engaged. They need to find out, hey, is this your first time in? Are you a seasoned pro? Where are you at? Do you need help? Do you not need help? And if you have that person on the cash register and you couple that with a good vibe, then you're immediately winning.
A couple years back, I went into a restaurant and it was earlier in the morning and it wasn't busy. And I'm eating and the manager comes out and he has a bunch of his team around him. And, you know, you perk up because you're in the restaurant space, so you start listening. He's going through and he's kind of a pre-shift kind of, getting him pizzazzed about what's next. And then he says, okay, after he goes through his spiel, he says, and what's the most important thing that we're trying to do today? And what do we say? And everyone says, my pleasure. You know what I'm talking about now, right? But that stood out to me as every day they're talking about the most simple thing, which is my pleasure. And that for me, that I came back and going, well, what do we need to be talking about to execute at this next level? What can we be doing? I'll give you an example. I went in kind of secret shopping. We're in Utah. We have a brand down in Scottsdale, and it's called Sicilian Butcher. And I took my family in, and we didn't tell them we were coming. I had my wife.
You wanted the real experience.
Yeah. I had my wife go up to the host stand and talk through, like, hey, could we get a table? And they're like, sure. And okay, you have 3 kids with you, great. And so I was kind of hiding out a little bit, and they put us on a table, and we're eating, and the server took my kids to see how they made fresh pasta, and then he took them over to the bakery and said, here, try this and do these things. They didn't know who we were, but that experience of Italian hospitality has become why they're so successful, right? And it starts with talking about the simple things first. And so how do we get that in all of our brands? Talking about the main foundation of hospitality, or going above and beyond, more than you could ever think before.
Yeah. It's like repetition is persuasive, repetition is persuasive, repetition is persuasive. This is true, and I think it's a fundamental truth that we often forget to execute against. What's the quote? Like, take a simple idea and take it seriously. Yeah. Like, saying my pleasure is a very simple idea. Far too few people take the time to take that idea seriously. Right. And it's nothing groundbreaking. It's not innovative technology. It's like, here, we're going to take the time and the focus to instill this behavior in this group of people in a way that's for them, because they're going to find more purpose in their work when they're more successful at it. Right. It's for the guests that come in because they're going to have a better experience. At the end of the day, like, we're talking about experiences, right? Like, there are other Italian restaurants, there's other beverage restaurants, there's other Italian, like what is the experience you're wrapping around the food and the restaurant? We often talk about like the guest experience in a food and beverage context. Like, there's like 3 interactive like pillars. You have human to human, you have human to technology, and you have human to environment. Like, all those things play. This is not sequential. It's like all these things are happening at different touch points. along the guest experience. So like human to human is hospitality. It's how does a human being care for another human being.
Right.
Human to tech, it's what are all the points that are integrated into a customer experience to allow for the experience to be better for the guest, and also sometimes for the employee. How do you equip them and elevate them to serve better? And environment is, everything from what are the clothes that the team is wearing to what's the vibe and the decor of the restaurant.
Right.
Like all these things matter. When you think about like in these pillars of like human to human, human to tech, human to environment, like where are some areas that you think like across the portfolio, like y'all are winning and doing it really well right now, like are very excited about success?
So I'm always thinking about the tech side of things, and I really enjoy the experience for the employee as well. And so for me, a top focus is how do we get them in a seamless fashion where they don't have 6 apps that they have to log into to try to find their information. And if you can make it so simple that they know that they're always going to get their schedule 2 weeks out, that plays a huge
It's a game changer.
yeah, it's a huge impact on them as an employee wanting to stay with you, regardless of how their interaction goes with their general manager, right? Human to human. But that tech enables them, okay, I know my schedule 2 weeks in advance. Here I can schedule these off. I need this day off. This is going on. And if you can take away some of those really harder pain points, well, your turnover rates are going to go from 120 a year to 80, right? And that's where we want to be. We want to be at 40. And so what tech can we put in place to retain our talent and then help them along the way? In that example with Chick-fil-A, every one of those employees now know how to be led and what to do as they go out in the workforce. If it's in restaurant, great. But as they become a doctor, they start
a great
emulating that same thing.
It's a life value add.
Explain,
No matter what they do.
Here's the basics. This is what it looks like. They take that with them. And so if we can accomplish that, making their life so easy to be here that when we do teach them the next level techniques, they can retain that.
So let's dive into, Swig. I'm a raving fan of Swig.
You and us.
Every
a
time
lot
you
of
say
people, us
swig,
as
I'm
well.
taking a drink.
Yeah, we're gonna cheers. It's such a fun brand. I've had such remarkable experiences each time I've gone. Like I've not yet bought a ticket to Salt Lake City to come to a Swig, and I know that one's I think in Georgia now.
Yeah.
We need to get one like in Atlanta. I'm very
Yeah.
excited for this.
Yeah.
My wife is not excited for this. I have the loyalty app now. It's I'm all in. So like when you think about Swig and contextualizing some of what we've talked about so far, obviously Nicole, just as a founder, instilled this remarkable culture in Swig. Would love to hear just like a little bit of the origin story of Swig through the lens of Nicole, and then just some of the principles of the culture that have started to form as you've started to scale Swig.
For sure. Yeah. I'll start with this. I'm watching a BYU basketball game the other night, and I'm a huge BYU fan, so I'm going to say this. They dismantled Kansas,
Are they good
which
this year?
never happens. Well, they beat Kansas by 34 points.
Okay,
at
so
home,
the
which
season
has
is a win.
Only happened. Yeah, that's right there is a win.
We're good.
And it's funny because they're talking about there's going to be a party in Provo, and the ESPN announcers go, "Oh, a party in Provo? How late is Swig open?" So to be on national, this is the mothership of sports. You've got broadcasters coming in for this game, and the moment they mention a party in Provo, they're talking about Swig.
Swig.
Exactly. And I love
It's
that.
so front of mind right now.
Absolutely. And everywhere you go. And when I think about Nicole and what she has done and brought to this, it's incredible. And when you talk about if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. When she's thinking about what am I going to do with my life? And what do I want to do and what makes me happy? It was going to get a drink in the middle of a day. That made her happy. But where she was going, they did food as well. The lines were long. They didn't feel like they knew her. And so while she loved the drink, she didn't love the experience. So then you have her taking, I love this, but I don't love that. So how can I make this better? And I think with Swig and their purpose of happiness in a cup, everything that she's done to create and instill in the brand is around that happiness in a cup. There's no speaker at the menu board because they want you to have that human-to-human contact. They want to know, your name. They want to know what you're looking for. They want to know the drink that you like. They want it to be quick because they want to be respectful of your time. But everything about that experience is about being happy in that moment. And that's what Nicole was looking for. And wherever she goes within the brand, she's like the Energizer Bunny. She never stops. She's always smiling. She's always happy. You go to a new store opening, like Josh was saying, she's working the line. We go and take some of our vendors and people going to Swig for the first time. You turn around and she's gone. Like, where did Nicole go? Well, she's working the line. She's making drinks. She's checking on the employees. And when you have that level of enthusiasm and love for what you do, that's contagious. Their teams all feel that way. We felt that way as we've worked with them, and just that passion it's irreplaceable.
What was y'all's first memory of Swig? Like, there's at some point where you had never heard of Swig before, and then all of a sudden you heard of it. Like, what was your formative memory of understanding what is Swig?
Yeah, so Swig originated out of St. George, Utah. It's this southern area. It's hour and a half out of Vegas, and everyone goes from Utah down to St. George to vacation because it starts snowing like it is today.
Yes.
And you want to get into the sun. Well, we started hearing about Swig down there being this place where you go to get a drink, and when you're like, what? Sorry, well, you go get a drink, okay. And I remember Andrew first saying, our managing partner, hey, we should take a look at Swig. And I'm like, why? Like soda? Like really? And he saw something in it that others couldn't see. And he could see that there's a passion for, something specific, and that he could execute on it. And what he found was the founder, who really, Nicole, she had everything. And so he's like, all right, I got the founder, I got something that I know can get to the next level, and we can execute on this. This isn't 800 SKUs of food. This is something that's simple but accessible, right? And it's just, we broke into that, having it for the first time, you're like, all right, soda. Oh, this is good.
Game changer.
This is really
Yes.
good.
Delicious.
Okay, that's different, right? So it's almost required to taste it to be able to understand it.
The hype behind it, yes.
We had a vendor who lived in Ohio, and we were talking to her, and she's like, Savory, I don't know you guys. And then we were going through, and she was a little, she was like, okay, so da-da, and she said, so your brands, and we're name brands, and then we said, yeah, Swig, and she's like, Swig? I follow them on social media. And it's like, you follow Swig and you live in Ohio? She's like, I've never had it, but it's amazing. I can't wait to go. It's like,
Right.
what?
Talk about a brand you drool over building.
Right.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And then having her here when they came for the first time, because then knowing where we were at, what they were doing, you have to make that trip, especially when you work in equipment, you can make that trip. So we go back of house, we're looking at everything, and she's just like wide-eyed the whole time. She already knows what she's going to order. So when it's time, we're like, hey, what are you going to order? She gets it, still smiling. She's like, I'll be right back. She's outside on TikTok. This is my first Swig. And it was just so fun to see it from this conversation to actually in real life. And just the pure joy of it was phenomenal.
The first time I was in Salt Lake City a couple years ago, and a friend named Dave Davis, he leads the Utah Food Industry Association. I was talking to him, and he says, before y'all leave, you need to go to this place called Swig. And he said, it's like the Starbucks of soda.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something y'all embrace or not, but the Starbucks of soda. And I don't know if y'all have kept up with, Starbucks is in an interesting phase right now. Yeah. Brian Nickel has come over. He rolled out his 4-point plan, getting back to the barista experience, the green apron, making that matter again, back to Starbucks. Yep. Right. I went recently, there's, using the Sharpie again on the cups. You dine in, you get the glassware instead of the disposable cup. Wi-Fi is better. Getting back to the third place local coffee shop vibe. I think we'll see where it goes. I think they're making a lot of great moves right now. I'm not the expert here, but we'll see where it pans out. When I've thought about the Swig experience and what I've loved about it, one, the personalization. You can go in and it's just a fun menu where you feel like you're a participant in the experience. It's not just here's the menu, choose one, we'll give it to you, get out of here. It's man, there's all these fun options. I can mix and match. I can have the Sprite and this one. It's a very fun, personalized experience. it's also fast. Like most of the orders go through drive-through. There's incredible efficiency that happens there.
Right.
And then the hospitality. Like I've never met a Swig employee who wasn't excited to be there, highly engaging, highly helpful. Like, so that's been like my breakdown. It's personalization. It's the speed of service, but without sacrificing the hospitality.
Yeah.
As y'all break down like the Swig customer experience, like how do you think about those principles? What principles do you think Swig gets right that I didn't call out? What's your eval of the Swig customer experience?
Well, I have this very unique viewpoint. My son actually worked for Swig for 4 years.
Oh, you have inside baseball here.
Yeah. So, having him come home and say, okay, so this is what it looks like to be a shift lead, and this is what I'm going to have to do, and I'm going through these modules, and I'm learning these things. And I see him go, he started there pretty early on, right? You're 15, 16-year-old, and I'm like, you should go work here. I didn't help him get the job.
You encouraged him to get the job.
I did. But to see him go from, typical 15, 16-year-old to 4 years into Swig, personality, and he's built this confidence, and he knows who he is, and he can talk to anyone, and he's staring people in the eyes, having these conversations. It's like, well, everyone needs to work at Swig. Everyone needs to have that experience to understand what it's like to meet someone for the first time and have a normal conversation. And the structure to be able to then know what to do when you meet someone for the first time. That was a great thing for him.
And it's the idea of caring for people beyond just what they can do for you. Like, it's employee retention matters a whole lot, but there's even something to thinking about, like, hey, not everybody's going to work for us forever, and that's okay. How do we impact them to the greatest degree while they're with us? Right. I think there's the old Nick Saban story about, like, he'd had some success, and he talked about how he would, when a draft eligible junior was contemplating going to the NFL or staying for their senior year at Alabama, Nick Saban would do everything he could to fight to convince that student athlete to stay for their senior year. Right. He said he had this realization at one point where there's a better way to do this. And if he actually just considered what's best for that student athlete, is it to go to the NFL? How does he make that happen in the most successful way? How does he make sure that they're a first round pick? If they need another year of development, how does he try to give them the truth needed to make a decision that actually is best for them in the long run and they come back? And what he said he found was the more he thought about the long-term benefit of the student athlete, the more guys went to the NFL after the junior year, the better the talent pipeline into the program for freshmen became. And there was idea of, like, he would go and say, like, hey, like, this is the place where if you want in the long term to end up where you want to go, we're the place that will help you get there, which is a much different perspective than trying to, like, extract as much value from the student athletes while they were there. Right. And I'm just hearing some of that mentality of, like, hey, we might not have these employees for forever, but, like, we're going to add value and help them get to where they want to go in the long run, which actually is probably going to build up a larger talent pipeline into a Swig or another restaurant concept than if it was just how do we convince them to stay for as long as possible and extract as much work as we can out of them.
Yeah, I love that you say that, because honestly, I think everyone should work in restaurants at some point in time. It's such a great starting place to be, because you experience everything within the four walls of a restaurant. You get happy people, you get unhappy people, you get really unhappy people. And within all of those elements, it's this learning opportunity of how do I approach adversity in life, right? How do I work hard? Josh is talking about scrubbing on his hands and knees, the walk-in. It's everything lives within that four walls of a restaurant. It's how do you work hard? It's how is no job unimportant? Because you have people who walk in the restaurant, and what do they look for? They look in the corners. And they go, oh, is this a clean restaurant or a dirty restaurant? And if the corners are clean, they feel really good about the space. Who is it that's cleaning those corners? Who's paying attention to detail? Who's cleaning right? Who's making the food right? Who's smiling when they don't want to smile? All of those elements are within the four walls of a restaurant that help you become a better person, regardless of what you're going to do in life, whether you're a John Conine or a Mayan Brim in Swig who has been there and now is an area director, or you work for Swig for a year and then you're off to school. You're going to take lessons learned from the restaurant experience that are going to benefit you for the rest of your life.
I think, it's interesting you're referencing college, because did he set this up and now everyone's just realizing it? Because I think the best recruiting happening in college right now are talking about how they can get them in business, set them up for success in the future, get them into areas of opportunity that they won't be able to, or if they know that they're not going to make it to the NFL or to the NBA, they're setting them up for business. And so if you're thinking through restaurant, is that the next move for restaurants? Setting employees up for the future
success.
talking about this
Yes.
part first.
Right.
I think that's spot on. I think it's interesting. College athletic departments are like marketing departments masquerading as college athletic departments. Like, you think about it, it's like we're trying to sell a product, and not just like trying to sell tickets. We're talking about like sell athletes to come and be a part of this program in a highly competitive environment.
Right.
We were talking with David Salyers right before this, and he was sharing like value equals like what you get over what you pay.
Right.
And the best brands innovate and ruthlessly focus on adding to what somebody gets.
Right.
And think about the dynamic of college athletics right now is like these college coaches, mostly football coaches, some basketball, are having to think through like, what can I offer to a student athlete beyond a roster spot?
Right.
I can invest in their future growth through business opportunities and education. I can invest in the relationships they're able to build outside of the football program that sets them up for future opportunity. There's this incredible thinking of value in a different way that probably, I love that at Savory Fund, I think that y'all think similarly, but a lot of brands would be wise to take notice of like, how are we innovating not just around reducing cost, but increasing the value that people feel and what they get.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this a few times, but in my mind, it goes back to purpose. When you go into the core of what, after the end of everything, can make someone happy, it's purpose. They want to be involved in something that is meaningful. And when you have that purpose that instills values, there's so much importance to that. So when you talk about college athletics, some of the programs that are doing really well isn't just, hey, I'm going to just throw $1 million at you. It's what Josh was talking about. We're going to give you purpose, and we're going to look at your life holistically, and we're going to educate you not only how you play on the field or on the court, but how you approach life and how you live in that way. And I think there's some of that intentionality in our restaurant concepts as well, is we're going to give you the tools to be able to manage all aspects of your life as these systems and structures and processes are implemented. That helps you have accountability. It helps you understand that great, you're always going to have some people who are the 9-to-5ers, but it's the ones who can see that there's intention, empathy coming from within the four walls of the restaurant, that they gravitate, there's something different. That purpose drives people to be better. And if you can instill that in your employees, you're going to get some that stay with you forever, because you're going to build a loyalty with them and they're going to find their purpose there. But if they can still take that purpose with them anywhere else, they're steps ahead of anyone that doesn't have that type of experience.
Right. So Paul Scott, our co-founder, CEO at Addo, he talks about when the purpose is clear, the mundane becomes meaningful.
Right.
And you think about how applicable that is to your point exactly, JP, where, a lot of crew members, team members, frontline employees are showing up to a restaurant every day and rolling up their sleeves and doing a lot of dirty work. And the brands that can communicate a sense of purpose, both in the sense of like who they're serving, why the brand exists, how what they're doing is forming them into a better version of themselves, and it's creating future opportunities. Like, I think that's where you win over the long term.
Right.
And there's a more direct way, I think, to communicate that to an employee. It's a little bit more nuanced, but we're also better off communicating level of purpose to a customer, and how when they interact with our brand, we're actually not just transacting, we're actually doing something meaningful and purposeful.
Right.
And I think the whole purpose marketing is in a lot of ways probably taking a hit for the right reasons. I think there's been a lot of manipulation of purpose, of like, let's create a purpose statement, let's shop it and do a fun campaign and make people think that we're about something bigger. And I think if you can come at it from an inside out perspective, like the purpose is real at a soul level, at a heart level, and then move out from there, I think it's still effective.
Right.
When you think about just what comes next for Savory Fund? Like, you're looking at the next year, 3 years, 5 years. Like, what are y'all most excited about right now?
Well, I think Savory has been interesting. We started our first fund, $100 million fund, second fund, $100 million, and we're currently in our third fund. That the ability to have capital to grow when others aren't growing has been one of our key pieces of success. And so when everyone said, the market's a little shaky, we built 50 stores. And when they said, like, we're having these issues, or this is what it looks like, we're putting money into training systems that then are individual to people, looking at their top strengths and then understanding that then creates the culture, right? Like, that's the relentless push towards pushing Savory. It is really having the capital to be able to do that. And sometimes that's the hardest part. Putting money where your mouth is and putting money into people, putting money into brands that are building at the right time. And it's not always the right time. So we've been lucky to be able to have that capital to keep growing.
I think for me, it's taking all the lessons that we've learned and applying it as we move on. One of the unique things about Savory is that we're always looking for these emerging concepts. And, Josh mentioned there's 11 different concepts. And along the way, when we first started out with Swig and Mobetas and R&R, that we were still new to some of this space. And as we've continued to evolve, we've learned as we've gone. And now we've sold majority interest of Swig. We've sold majority interest of Mobetas. And I'm excited to take the lessons that we've learned with them along the way and apply it to the other concepts that'll be coming down the pipeline as we continue to evolve and become better and better. And I think the ability to hone your craft, again, to me, it goes back to purpose, but the ability to hone your craft and help people and make their lives easier and simpler. We always talk about the employee, and the things that we're trying to do is make their life easier and simpler, so then it's easier for them to smile when the customer comes in. So for me, I love that. I love the continued growth. I love the innovation. I love learning from where maybe we didn't do something well and then doing it better as we go. So I think for me, that's what I'm most excited about.
I'm going to wrap us up with this question. Have you all read the book Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara?
Well, yeah.
So 11 Madison Park, New York City, Michelin star, best restaurant in the world, back-to-back years. There's this story in there of the Tiffany champagne flutes. Do y'all remember this? Yeah. So I guess a gentleman called to schedule a reservation to propose to his girlfriend. And the person, the receptionist or the host taking the call, was so excited that they ran to Tiffany's before the reservation and bought 2 Tiffany champagne flutes and actually had their names inscribed on them.
Oh, wow.
And the couple shows up. The host is really excited, gets them to their seats, goes and gets the complimentary glass of champagne and the champagne flutes, walks it out, proposes. She says yes, gifts the champagne flutes or the champagne to the couple, goes and like boxes up the champagne flutes on the back end and gifts them to the couple on the way out. And just incredible story of like unreasonable hospitality. And then he talks about how this very like unscalable moment became scalable. Tiffany's took note. They wanted a partner with 11 Madison Park to provide champagne flutes for all future engagements. And like, you think about the remarkable experience that was had by that gentleman who came in, who probably told everybody in the world that he knew about this experience.
Right.
Last question is personal, but it sits in the bucket of hospitality and what we're talking about. Would love to hear from each of you the most hospitable brand experience that you've had. It could have been something that went wrong and the recovery was amazing. It could have been just like you walked into something and it so wildly blew your expectations that you told everybody else about it. Most hospitable brand experience.
Oh, that's such a good question.
That really is. That's like
This is our
So-
having to pause to digest that and really think back.
I got one. I was lucky enough to go to Italy, and I got to go through the tour of the Ferrari factory. And if you think about what that looks like, it's pretty hard to get in and to see that. The floors were like sparkling clean, and they're making Ferraris as they pass. And the experience that they created just for someone going through their factory has me at like, I'm a forever Ferrari fan, right? That
Sold.
that just was amazing. And I got done, and they were talking about, well, we produce 27 cars a day, and you think about that, it's like that's not that
That's
much.
nothing. Yeah.
That's crazy. And then, all right, so you think it's done, and like, okay, now we're going to take you to the track so you can see some of the exclusive race cars. And then you think it's done. Now we're going to take you through F1, and we'll show you what F1 is doing. That experience to me was like, okay, rethink things in a different way.
Change your perspective.
Yeah. Right.
That's so good.
I love that. For me, I think it's my mother-in-law lives up in the Pacific Northwest. So every time we would go and visit, then they always wanted to go to Dutch Brothers. It was a thing up there. And so my wife and I, we went down to a funeral in Arizona. One of our dear friends had passed away, and we were down there. And I said, hey, I think there's Dutch Brothers down here as well. And there was one right outside there in Tempe. And we're in the line, and she's all excited because she just loves that experience. And we get there, roll down the window, the guy comes up super bubbly. Hey, how are things going? What are you guys doing? And like, oh, we're actually just getting ready to drive home, and there's not a Dutch where we live, so we're just coming to get one. He's like, oh, that's so amazing. What brought you to Arizona? Like, well, actually, we're here because we're at a funeral for, a family friend that had passed away. And he's like, oh, man, I'm so sorry to hear that. Sounds like you guys are having a hard day. This one's on me. And so he walked with us and just continued to talk until we got up to the window, took care of everything, gave us something for the road, and went on. And that's that little moment of just personalization. Like, my wife still remembers that. I still remember that. And I think that's the unique thing about restaurants. I remember when we went to the Think Strategic event in New Orleans, they talked about sometimes when you're working in the monotony of the restaurant, you forget about why you do what you do. And I'll get a little emotional on this. My son Mason was in a horrific motorcycle accident. He was hit off his bike, and as he was coming in and out of consciousness, and they were trying to get him to eat, the only thing that he finally decided he want was a smoothie. And so near the hospital where he was at was a tropical smoothie cafe. So every day we're going up to the hospital to see him, and we're bringing him a smoothie, and that's what's bringing him back from this funk and getting him nutrition. And the fourth day that we're there, go up to the window, and the person's there and is like, hi, do you have an order? I'm like, yeah, it's this. And, okay, here it is. I'm like, hey, I just want to stop you for a minute and just say thank you, because this smoothie is what's making my son happy, and he's miserable right now. So thank you for what you're doing in there and making something for him that is helping him to heal and giving him a boost every day. And the expression on her face changed immediately to like, thank you so much for telling me. I hope your son feels better. Thank you very much. And I think sometimes we forget that you can go anywhere to eat. But a lot of times people are coming to a restaurant for an experience, whether it's I'm getting engaged, or it's a first date, it's a farewell at a job, or it's asking parents permission to marry their daughter. Whatever it may be, people go to restaurants to be able to have those experiences. And so we have this unique opportunity to create lasting memories if we approach it in the right way. And there's just magic sometimes that happens within those four walls.
I think magic is the right word. It's,
Right.
I mean, like, stories create purpose and experiences create meaning. And when you get like a story right that's compelling, your ability to share that story with that employee at Tropical Smoothie, like, it changes the entire experience and the meaning of putting together a smoothie for that person.
Absolutely.
Man, well, one, admire both of you as like leaders, and have appreciated y'all's friendship, and appreciate you hanging out in Salt Lake City with me. Excited to do some skiing this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I'll give you the report. Last time I went, I had a brutal knee injury, but so this is first time back. I figured there's only one way to do it. Let's go fast and let it rip. So
There you go.
It's snowing right now. There's going to be lots of snow. So
hopefully
you
minimum
have to go big.
exposure. We're going to go for it. But appreciate both of you. Excited to
Thank you. Appreciate
continue friendship.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
love that. Thanks
Yeah.
again.